Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, deadly driving, road death figures heading in wrong direction. July is shaping up to be the deadliest month on Jamaica's roads so far this year. Dr. Lucian Jones, Vice Chair of the National Road Safety Council, said that there have been 36 fatalities, with a projection for the tally to reach 40 by month end, a forecast he calls an absolute disaster. This disturbing trend comes despite a 15% decline in road deaths recorded in the first quarter of 2025. At that point, according to the Island Traffic Authority, Jamaica had seen 93 fatalities from 84 fatal crashes, an encouraging shift from the corresponding period in 2024. However, up to July 25, the number of road deaths stood at 223 from 192 fatal collisions, a 4% increase over last year's tally for the similar period. There were 34 road deaths in June. Jones opined that initial decline was tied to heightened public attention surrounding the implementation of new Road Traffic Act and its accompanying enforcement tools. A lot of these things were in the public's mind: the increased fines, the point system, the fact that police could write tickets more efficiently, and that warrants would be issued for non-compliance, he told the news. That public hype helped drive the numbers down to 375 deaths last year from over 420 the year before. But that momentum has faded. People went back to their bad habits, he said. They're speeding, not wearing helmets, and making poor choices. We're going back to the bad old days, hopefully not, but that's what's happening right now. Among the deadliest crashes was along the Salter Marsh Main Road in Trelawney, when 5 persons perished on July 6. Motorcyclists, who made up 28% of fatalities in the first quarter, continue to be among the most vulnerable road users. While earlier data suggested fewer biker deaths, recent trends are erasing those gains. A lot of motorcyclists died in the earlier part of the year, but it's beginning to catch up now, Jones said. Citing a 2023 Don Anderson survey, he revealed that nearly 60% of both motorcyclists and pillion riders were not wearing helmets. The Ministry of Health's data for 2023 also confirms widespread non-compliance with safety device regulations, people not using helmets or seatbelts, he said. The ITA's July report also presented a grim picture for motorcyclists. Those road users have accounted for 60 of the 223 fatalities so far this year, with another 10 deaths involving pillion passengers. Private motor vehicle drivers and the passengers together account for 85 deaths, more than a third of the total. Multiple fatalities in one crash, 5 at a time, 3 at a time, that's been happening far too often, Jones said, and a lot of those are private vehicles. As a result, the NRSC has issued a red alert nationwide. We want people to be aware and to respond, said Jones. The police are going to get more vigilant and hopefully people will change. He added that the current rise is especially worrying heading into the final quarter of the year when road deaths traditionally spike. Going towards Christmas, November, December, we usually have an increase in fatalities. The silly season is coming and we're already seeing the warning signs. Questions swell in Eswatini over deportation of Jamaican and 4 others from U.S. In the small African kingdom of Eswatini, the arrival of 5 men, including a Jamaican, deported from the United States under Washington's aggressive anti-immigrant measures, has sparked a rare wave of public dissent. The 5, including nationals of Vietnam, Laos, Yemen, and Cuba, were flown to Eswatini's administrative capital of Mabane on July 16 on a U.S. military plane and incarcerated after U.S. authorities labeled them criminal illegal aliens. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security said the men were convicted of violent crimes so uniquely barbaric that their home countries refused to take them back. The government of Eswatini formerly known as Swaziland, has confirmed their presence. But the spokesman, Tabile Mduli, said they would not stay permanently and will be repatriated in due course to their different countries. That assurance, though, has not quelled a tide of questions and concerns that has risen within the kingdom about the operation. Civic and rights groups are wondering whether further deportees from the United States will arrive and what rights the 5 men detained have. Public outrage at the lack of transparency led to 150 women protesting outside the U.S. Embassy in Mbabane on Friday. The protest, organized by the Eswatini Women's Movement, demanded the prisoners be returned to the United States and queried the legal basis Eswatini relied on to accept them. The 5 men are being held in the Matsafa Correctional Center, 30 kilometers or 20 miles south of Mbabane. The facility, notorious for holding political prisoners and overcrowding, has been under renovations and expansions since 2018, reportedly funded by the United States as part of a program covering all 14 of the country's penal centers. Sources within the penitentiary administration said the men were being held in solitary confinement in a high-security section of the facility, with their request to make phone calls being denied. The sources said the men have access to medical care and the same meals as the 1,000 other inmates, as well as a toilet, shower, and a television in their cells. Prime Minister Russell Dlamini has dismissed the calls by lawmakers and from other quarters for the secrecy surrounding the agreement with Washington to be lifted. Not every decision or agreement is supposed to be publicly shared, he said. Eswatini is the second African country to receive such deportees from the United States, after South Sudan earlier this month accepted 80 individuals. The situation has sparked concerns about the potential implications for Eswatini, a country already grappling with its own challenges under the absolute monarchy of King Mswati III. The 57-year-old ruler has been criticized for his lavish lifestyle and has faced accusations of human rights violations. U.S. President Donald Trump has used the threat of high tariffs against other countries, such as Colombia, to coerce them to take in people deported from America. Eswatini is currently facing a baseline U.S. tariff of 10%, less than the 30% leveled at neighboring South Africa, which the government has said will negatively impact the economy. Trump has directed federal agencies to work hard on his campaign promise to expel millions of undocumented migrants from the United States. His government has turned to so-called third-country deportations in cases where the home nations of some of those targeted for removal refuse to accept them. RAND's experts have warned the U.S. deportations risk breaking international law by sending people to nations where they face the risk of torture, abduction, and other abuses. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.